Today is October 28th, year 2017. How many of you follow numerology? Somewhat.
Somewhat.
There's a lot of movement today. It's what's called a, There's a lot of movement today. Today is what's called a sequence day. The numbers follow a sequence 1, 2, 3. So there's been a lot of movement. Have all of you felt like a real movement forward beginning today? Mm-hmm. So we'll take a moment here to address the profound gateway that's been opening since October 10th. So do we have any other astrologers here?
Yes.
Oh, Glenn. I didn't recognize you. Welcome, brother. This brother and I go back almost 30 years. So anytime you feel like chiming in, feel free to do so.
I'm here to listen.
Aren't we all? As I've mentioned in previous talks, the astrological matrix is a description of the mortal world that our immortal spirits have married. It doesn't define us unless we are overcome and captured by the 3D mortal dimension that we are dancing within. So if you have had breakthroughs in your life where you've been touched by eternity, you experienced your own immortality, you realize that you are a soul, a spirit who never dies, this 3D world is merely an opportunity to awaken certain aspects or qualities, to affect certain aspects of your spirit in its evolutionary journey. Have some of you had breakthroughs along those lines where you know that you are immortal? You know, this young lady here has. And for those who haven't quite made that leap and are on a journey, a spiritual quest, a vision quest, to break through the appearance of being dominated or captured by the intensity of the mortal world. That's what we many times call a shamanic journey. And whenever we feel or experience the agony of the soul beginning to awaken, there's a deep intensity or a cry within our being. Almost at any risk, break through the bounds of the known and open up to the experience of the true nature of our being that rests in the very core of our being. This process, this gateway of awakening, has now begun to intensify with Jupiter, the planet of our understanding, that which we have come to believe and understand unites us all and gives our life meaning, has entered the sign of Scorpio. The sign of Scorpio by nature is related to the shamanic journey to break the bounds of the known and contact the deep core of our being, the part of us that forever lives in contact with the spirit, the soul, the higher aspects of ourselves. Glenn here is a Scorpio. Do we have any other Scorpio emphasis? So anyone with Scorpio emphasis in your chart, your whole life's been a shamanic journey. Where the agony of the soul reaches such a great level of intensity that your entire being comes to a focus that drives deeper into the core of your being and generates the breakthrough of your resurrecting into a new understanding of yourself and the world around you. Now, Jupiter is a 12-year cycle, so we've gone through this particular gateway a number of times. But the positions of the other planets right now in relationship to Jupiter suggests that this is a particularly profound and powerful gateway that may not be experienced again in our lifetimes. Every sign has a planet that's associated with it. The sign of Scorpio is associated with the planet Pluto. Pluto's in Capricorn. He's looking to Saturn as his guide. Saturn's in Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter. Saturn's looking to Jupiter as his guide. So we see a circuit here, from Jupiter to Pluto to Saturn to Jupiter. This is a very unusual circuit, with Jupiter and Saturn being those gateways or portals, those intelligences that are associated with our sociology, our societies. They're the bridge between our personal experience of life and the transcendent or transpersonal aspects of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So Jupiter and Saturn right now are relating to one another as guides. And they're also unusually both one sign behind the sign that they rule, which suggests that society at large is in a quandary right now about its true nature, about its direction forward, about the place that it stands in integrity, Saturn and Sagittarius, and the great expanse of understanding that opens up as a bright blue sky when we need to transcend being captured in the personal dilemma or drama of our life. Jupiter is that intelligence or gateway that opens our understanding to how we are united beyond our individual challenges and greater understanding of a direction that leads toward freedom and liberation. But Jupiter right now is in the sign of Scorpio, the sign before his rulership, Sagittarius, which follows Scorpio. So he's in a position now of saying, okay, my understanding, my experience of the greater unity that unites us all has taken me so far, but there's a deeper level of passion and purpose that I need now to find in order to take the next leap of consciousness into the greater understanding that's needed for the future unfoldment of my own life and humanity around us. So Jupiter in Scorpio, Jupiter himself is on a vision quest. He's on a shamanic journey. He's on the hero's quest. And the great archetypes of the heroes and heroines of our past have taken this quest when they've realized that there's a greater destiny that requires a deeper understanding of themselves and a deeper empowerment from the core of their being in order to succeed. So the many trials and tests of the underworld are called in to awaken qualities of being and character and abilities that they had not yet experienced before or been able to contact or connect with without the great challenge of the tests involved in the hero's journey. So there's a certain kind of trickster element whenever Pluto or Scorpio is involved. Glenn knows that well, probably. But the trickster is our ally. We call in our trickster so that we are challenged to move beyond the boundaries of the known. And through the challenge of many times a life and death experience, we realize that we're much more powerful than we ever imagined. Certain abilities or qualities of being are activated under great stress, and we find out that we're much more capable. We have almost superhuman abilities to meet a challenge that we before would have buckled under. So this Jupiter and Scorpio phase is an opportunity to connect with the serpent power, the Kundalini fire. It's nothing like a life or death situation to activate the Kundalini and awaken abilities or capacities within you that you had you had never suspected even you were capable of. How many of you have experiences in your life where you just rose to the occasion to surprise yourself? But the challenge was required in order to awaken that talent or ability. So this Jupiter and Scorpio phase, because it's so involved with Pluto and Saturn, is being experienced on a global level, where we are reaching a point of no return and being challenged in the right use of power, both individual and global power. Now, when the Kundalini awakens, there's a singular quality that is awakened along with it. What would you suspect that quality is? How would you describe an awakening, a Kundalini awakening? Anyone ever had the experience of Kundalini awakening? How would you describe that? Would you describe it as a passion?
It's a intensity vibration.
Yeah, where all of your being comes to a singular focus.
Yeah, and you can't sleep, and you're wired.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Just full of energy, and you're vibrating.
Yeah, and you feel like fully alive.
Yeah. And it goes up and out, and I mean, when that happens, it's just, it's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's like someone just flipped a giant switch, and you're electrified. Now, I'm spending a lot of time with Scorpio because this is like major emphasis right now with the Sun in Scorpio also, and Venus about to enter Scorpio. And this is a year-long theme.
Venus and Scorpio?
Jupiter in Scorpio. From an evolutionary perspective, the signs unfold as stages of consciousness. So it's important to understand the Scorpio in relationship to its phase or stage in the evolutionary unfoldment of our consciousness. Scorpio follows Libra and prepares us for Sagittarius. Libra is the power of attraction. It's the first sign on the upper hemisphere of the natural wheel. The bottom half of the wheel, we realize our individual star. We self-perfect. We become an individual expression, unique expression of the greater whole, the greater divinity, unique to ourselves and bringing that particular quality of being to the circle. But when we start entering the top half of the chart, Libra is the first sign in that top half of the archetypal wheel. We take that perfected self, that star that's been birthed, and begin to dance with the other selves. And Libra being the sign classically of marriage, ruled by Venus, the power of attraction. It's through the power of attraction to a mirror self, a partner with whom we dance. That's the first step out beyond ourselves in dancing with the greater whole. So Venus, the Venusian quality in Libra, because she rules two signs, is the power of attraction, the point where we are so attracted to another that we are motivated to dance beyond ourselves, beyond the known within ourselves, and begin to engage the unknown as a partner with whom we dance and share ourselves as a mirror self. That's Libra. So the natural next step, Scorpio from Libra, would be the alchemy that attraction produces to begin to completely obliterate the boundary between ourselves and the other. And when the Kundalini arises, when passion arises, how many of you have been so head over heels in love with someone, quote unquote, in love, that you just lost all your boundaries? It's like nothing mattered any longer. There was just this one person in the universe, and your entire being came to a singular passion focus. And like these rock songs over and over again, you were willing to die for this person. So what died within you was the boundary of the known, and you were drawn or tricked or heyoted into stepping beyond the boundary of your own individual self and losing yourself in the experience of another. And through that alchemy, Tantra, a greater self then emerged, and you realized or experienced or touched by eternity of the greater whole that we're dancing with. So you spend all this time in the first 6 signs developing a clear and defined awareness of how individual and separate you are. But then Libra and Scorpios, all that's obliterated, and you become kind of connected to the greater whole around you. It's usually through the first experience of that is through profound sexual or passionate or tantric encounter with another that draws you beyond the boundaries of the known. It takes that intensity to overcome all your fears and realize that there's a greater opportunity to experience yourself beyond the boundaries of the known. One of the messages I was getting before I came tonight was there's a certain desperation in feeling like you reach a point in your life where you feel like you're trapped in the known. You're trapped in the way of being that has kind of boxed you in to a certain point where you really want to break out beyond that boundary. So many will, at that point, feel a desperate intensity to take a risk to break the bounds of the known in their life. And if you're on a spiritual journey, you'll go to South America and do ayahuasca. Or do something really, jump out of a plane at 30,000 feet. That's the Jupiter-Scorpio phase right now. It's a building intensity to break through the boundaries of the known and connect with the deeper and more passionate core of our being. That creates the fuel for the Sagittarian phase that will follow next year to reach a greater height in our unique understanding of the greater purpose for which we were born. So the Heyoka aspect of Scorpio can appear as a life and death challenge of some kind that unites us and others around us with greater purpose to achieve a deeper and more experiential unity of life around us. And how many of you have ever been in an earthquake or a fire where your whole neighborhood or area was united because of a catastrophe, that a cosmic heyoka that brought people together at a new level of unity than they'd been able to achieve before? There's a certain medicine in that. And interestingly enough, Mother Nature is cooperating very nicely to offer humanity the opportunity to experience a deeper and greater level of unity through crisis. And unfortunately, that movement of their assemblage points doesn't particularly last. It just snaps back to normal until a greater crisis emerges. So, any questions at this point? Insights? We're all mesmerized.
So you talked about the global situation, the effects of the current alignment of the stars on the global scheme. How about something a little bit more localized? United States, Mount Shasta, California?
Yeah, it's interesting. I have this. I have the chart of California here, and California, interestingly enough, has 4 degrees Scorpio rising, with its moon and Venus in Scorpio in the 12th house. So, to bring it down to human language, whenever Jupiter crosses the ascendant of any chart, it begins a new 12-year phase of expansion and understanding. And Jupiter is just now crossing the ascendant of California as we speak, starting a whole new 12-year phase of empowerment. And it's because it's Scorpio rising, California is like a locus of Hega power, where the crisis, like we've had earthquakes here, and we have fires here now, and the empowerment of California tends to be very intense and transformative, not just for California, but for the rest of the world.
We're the trendsetters.
Yeah, and so I would imagine this coming year, starting now, that California will be in the headlines as a transforming power, a teacher for the rest of the world. And for us here as Californians, we individually then will be empowered to stand up as examples of the right use of power. Because Jupiter in Scorpio, whenever you're dealing with Scorpio, you're dealing with the right use of power. Your personal power or your power over others. And this test of integrity with Saturn in Sagittarius, about to enter Capricorn, its own sign, in December, is about the right use of power of those who hold positions of responsibility and authority within our society and globally around the world. So these, if anyone has been following the news, it's Scorpio is also related to the right use of passion. Because if we're not impassioned on a deep level of our own integrity, then we'll seek human relationship as a source of our passion in order to give our lives purpose and meaning. Because we don't have a greater purpose that extends ourselves beyond our own individual concerns to the greater unity of those around us, the greater need of those around us on a societal level. So Scorpio classically is connected with sexuality and our sexual relationship to others, the right use of the Kundalini power. But Kundalini power is not really sexual energy, it's vital energy, it's life force energy. Is that when it awakens, it can first activate the second chakra and be experienced as sexual energy. So many, particularly men, when their Kundalini is activated, they'll experience that activation of sexual energy, a sexual attraction. And that passion then becomes directed or focused on the person that they are attracted to. So the right use of that Kundalini fire, serpent fire awakening, has really brought the whole issue of the integrity around the right use of male attraction into the forefront. But it's really the right use of power. It can be experienced as a sexual issue, but it's really the right use of power. So as our Kundalinis awaken, we will feel impassioned and need to dance with that fire in a conscious and purposeful way so that our hearts are connected with the fire evolving, and we handle that particular fire activation with integrity. So the issues of of respect, of dancing with the Kundalini serpent and fire in an awakened way will become a real integral part of this initiation. So those of you who are in relationship may be deepening in your passion and finding that the alchemy, the opportunity of this alchemy is really there present for you to work with this energy on a conscious and purposeful level. But wherever Jupiter is, we're looking for our purpose, our path that gives us greater meaning, gives our lives greater meaning and understanding, and that through that greater meaning and understanding unites us on a higher level with all other human beings and the universe around us. So how many of you feel like you're kind of like looking for deeper meaning in your life right now? And that the frameworks of understanding that have been worked for you for the last 11 years have just reached kind of a crossroads where you're saying, I got to dive deeper now. There's something deep within me that's waiting to be awakened that I haven't quite been able to access. Power and passion, the medicine of passion, is that it focuses you with great intensity because that great intensity is required to break through to the next level. You can't break through the barrier without that passionate intensity of a singular focus. So the way in which you call that into your life experience is up to you. Whether you'll be heyokaed into it by having some kind of life and death challenge just suddenly show up on your doorstep, or whether you say, okay, I am staying alert now to the symbols, the omens, the people, the events that are offering me the opportunity to find that singular passion and focus. And I'm going to lose my fear of stepping beyond the known and dive into the greater mystery of my own being. So this is a mind-blowing gateway we have just entered. And because, like I said earlier, with Saturn and Pluto involved, it's a global gateway. And those human beings who are kind of on the treadmill, like the hamster on the wheel, feel kind of captivated by the limitations of their life. Those, in that state, they may be looking for a grand apocalyptic event.
Mm-hmm. September 23rd.
Yeah, or they're looking for some kind of catalyst that will break them free of the ordinary humdrum of their life and pole vault them into a more impassioned and focused way of being. So that's the shadow side of Jupiter and Scorpio, where you unwittingly are looking or hoping for some kind of outer event that's potentially catastrophic in nature to open up the golden age, or that would be the catalyst for Jesus to return, or the Mahdi to return, to set the world aright, or set the world straight. Those of us who are awakening realize that it's not an outer event that we're seeking, that greater power lies within us. The underworld is where the greater treasures is hidden for a reason. Because until we have achieved a certain level of integrity, conscious discipline, that treasure, that greater power, that greater ability to influence ourselves and those around us would not be in safe hands. So we go through these tests and trials to perfect our integrity around the right use of power, so that we have proven to ourselves that this next level of empowerment is safe in our hands. And that's the great underworld journey that we are undertaking for the following year. So whatever situation or whoever shows up as your possible petty tyrant to test your integrity around the right use of power, realize that you have called them in to kind of determine for yourself whether when you're pushed to the wall, your integrity holds. When you're challenged to compromise your integrity, your commitment to that integrity, the integrity of your being, cannot be compromised. When you realize that you have called them in as a teacher or petty tyrant, you can then kind of laugh at the whole experience of it. It may still be very intense, but you realize that they are coming in to your life experience as an opportunity to deepen your integrity, perfect your integrity. So Venus still remains in Libra, her own sign, until November 7th, and she then enters into Scorpio. Mercury is in Scorpio currently, and he will shift into Sagittarius on November 5th. And we have a full moon coming up here on next Friday at 12 degrees Taurus, with the sun at 12 degrees Scorpio. So, and Mars continues to transit through Libra until December 9th. Then he enters Scorpio. So, and the Sun remains in Scorpio until 21st of November. So, from the 9th of November onward, with Venus also entering Scorpio, this process may deepen our passion to engage the opportunity to dance with another in a way in which our greater capacities to experience that transformative alchemical aspect of our being intensifies. So Venus and Libra right now are still kind of in a peacemaking mode, and it's interesting that Donald Trump will be visiting the front lines of South Korea, I believe, on November 7th, the day that Venus enters Scorpio. So we're watching this global drama unfold and before our eyes, where we feel or sense that all of human history now is coming to a culmination of some kind, and that we may be experiencing the consequence of thousands of years of civilization coming to a head.
Quick note, North Korea is on this 12-year cycle. Every 12 years they rattle their sabers. If you go back, it's 3 cycles they've been doing that.
And that's this year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do they have something in Scorpio?
I don't know the chart. I just was looking at the timeline, looking at what was happening in history.
Right.
I noticed that every time Jupiter going into Scorpio, North Korea just starts blowing up.
So it's possible that North Korea has Scorpio rising then. The chart, yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. And like I mentioned earlier, Jupiter is in Scorpio over 12 years, but because of where Pluto and Saturn are currently, this is a more profound Jupiter Scorpio phase than I've seen before. So any questions at this point? Anything else you'd like to add, Glenn, or anyone else?
Back to North Korea for just a second. So there was an actual serious standoff between the United States and North Korea in September, when Trump basically threatened that we will use weapons. I thought that passed and we were kind of out of any kind of troubles. I guess it continues.
Yeah. Yeah, the entire phase of human history that's thousands of years old needs to come into the full light of day so we can understand the nature of choices that were made in the very beginning that planted the seed for our current experience of civilization on planet Earth. And those seeds were inadvertently set in the foundation of the very structure of civilization that we're experiencing now. And this is an emotional thing, it's not a conscious thing. The civilization itself became a response to the profound power of the elemental kingdom in our experience of this world as not a very safe place to be. When the powers of the elementals and the flood just wiped out all the civilization away, it says, whoa, you know. Mother Earth is not wrapped in a pretty pink little ribbon here. And we, in order to ensure our survival, need to hedge ourselves against the elementals, against the ferocity of the natural world. And civilization became a response to that initial fear of the elementals and the power of nature itself. This wasn't a conscious decision. This was a visceral, emotional decision to ensure the survival of the human race. So civilization, if you look at around us today, you can feel that emotional conclusion at its foundation. That we need to protect ourselves against the forces and elements of nature. In civilization, our ingenuity, we came up with all these ways to do that. Building homes and electricity and all those things that we had to invent in order to create a hedge against the raw power of the elementals in the natural world around us in order to survive. And then it became an issue of our comfort and creativity, and all that got all mixed together or interwoven together. But because of that, we set ourselves on a course that was going to lead to an ultimate confrontation with the very planet we had, kind of declared war against. And that ultimate confrontation now is reaching ahead. We began to become aware of that in the 60s when we got this beautiful picture of Mother Earth from the heavens and realized, whoa, this is a tiny blue dot in this vast black space. And her resources are limited. And not only that, she's a living being. And the indigenous people all along have been trying to tell us that, but we finally it began to dawn on humanity that we need now to turn back to Mother Earth as a living being with finite resources and establish conscious living relationship to her on not just on an individual level, but on a civilizational and a societal level. And that basic confrontation now has been building, and Saturn and going into Capricorn with Pluto already in Capricorn, and then Jupiter in Capricorn in 2019. All that we built, all the structures we built, the civilizational construct that we created and imposed upon planet Earth is coming to a head in its full implication with that seed that was set thousands of years ago as the emotional undertone of civilization itself. So we on a personal level can experience that crisis. But this is becoming now a global phenomenon where we realize that we, as a human society, will need to come together on a greater level of unity and conscious, purposeful, creative intention to turn this global ship of civilization around and bring it into greater balance with the earth around us. So the increase in intensity of these elemental forces that we call hurricanes, fires, earthquakes, are in a way Mother Earth's way of becoming our teacher, our shaman, catalyzing us to come together with greater purpose because of the nature of the catastrophe, the depth of the catastrophe, and work together to rebuild in a more conscious and purposeful way, in harmony and relationship with her. So this process, I would imagine, will be building over the next 3 years to open up the way, and starting in 2021 especially, to the real age of awakening we've been anticipating. But this year in particular is a very powerful, fateful year for us to become conscious of the mortal nature of our existence, of the entire human race, so that death becomes our advisor and awakens us to the greater and more eternal aspect of our being that brings the power of love and intentional creativity as a conscious and purposeful focus into the experience of our daily lives and our recommitment or our deep commitment to find ways in which to overcome our differences and work together as an awakened society. So I'm not sure how scary it needs to get before people wake up and says, God, we gotta work together. We can't cross that. And it's funny to watch Trump just cross every boundary and every barrier that we had thought was unimaginable before. And saying, this is like, whoa, how scary does it have to get before we get this is a path that leads to oblivion.
He's the petty tyrant.
Yeah, he's playing his part perfectly.
Is impeachment in his chart?
Well, everybody thought he was going to, something was going to happen with this last solar eclipse right on his ascendant, and
Well, it'll take 18 months.
But the problem is, Pence is even worse. So.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, go ahead.
You briefly described the nature of the Kundalini awakening in the male. Could you comment on the nature of the Kundalini awakening in the female?
From my experience, women by nature have a more active Kundalini. So I don't know what you would have something to say about that.
Yeah, mine's been awake since '89, so.
Yeah. Women from my understanding, I can't speak for women, are more naturally related to the serpent fire, and so they carry the awakening, the awakened Kundalini, as almost a given. Would you say that's true? Did you go through a Kundalini awakening? So how did you experience that?
It was like the most blissful passion of love. It's nothing you could imagine on this one.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like electrical light just cracked open.
Mm-hmm.
It was just very beautiful.
Yeah, see, the nature of the Kundalini rising is that it'll move out through the chakras. So if you have a blocked third chakra, it won't reach the heart. If you haven't really come to terms with the will to power, the conscious and purposeful and integrous use of your own power, the third chakra, there's a blockage there. So it can't rise to the heart. Your third chakra was open. So when the Kundalini arose, it naturally rose into the heart.
Yeah.
And you had this really beautiful, loving experience, right?
Right. So when I had that near-death experience, that's when I believe it was the most manifested.
Mm-hmm.
It came from the top first.
Okay.
And the bolt of light came through and cleaned everything out. So
Okay.
therefore, everything was just completely pure.
So when the Kundalini rose, your chakras had already been cleared out. Okay,
They were
perfect.
all unblocked. So they came from everything.
Oh, nice.
Unblocked.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. It's like electric lightning bolts.
Right.
Cleaned everything right out.
Because women by nature tend to be more focused in their heart. When the Kundalini rises, they'll have more of that kind of experience. For us men, it's a little more challenging at times. Would you say that's true for ladies? I'm not going to speak for you.
Well, I would just say that it was interesting that there was snake dancing happening in Ashland
Mm-hmm.
just the other night.
Oh, right. Did you-
Last night.
Did you go?
No, but I had before at another
Yeah.
priestess event. But
Right.
yeah, and it really supports the awakening of the Kundalini.
Mm-hmm. So, the idea of shamanic experience has really become dominant in the whole awareness movement. How many of you are a little confused about the word shaman? When someone says they're on a shamanic, do you have an idea of what you mean when you say that? That there are many people that claim to be shamans or offer shamanic experience. What actually do they mean by that? Anybody? Not sure.
Someone that can help you bridge between the realities.
Yeah. But how does that make them different than a mystic? Because a mystic will do that also.
The shaman is more grounded.
Yes.
Okay?
It has to do with being in touch with the center of the earth and nature.
Right. So it brings you down into your body and through your body knowing and you
Not
experience.
just your physical body, but the body of planet Earth as well.
Yeah. So you become more connected to the living beingness of the Mother Earth and the
Right.
powers associated with her.
Right.
They
Yeah.
know how to work in the astral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorcerers also work in the astral, so do mystics. But there's a certain distinction between shaman and mystic or sorcerer.
The shaman's more of a medicine person that
Mhm.
could take you, like, do soul retrievals and do
Mhm.
shamanic work,
Yeah.
move blockages, do healings. So it's
Mhm.
more that way in the mystics,
Yeah.
a seer.
Mhm. Right.
Well, shamans see too. That's how they do their
Right.
work, for lack
See.
of better word.
So we can see there's a lot of different, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to spend a little time on this because Scorpio is connected with journeying into the underworld, the shamanic transformation or awakening. Have any of you read Carlos Castaneda? Yeah. Okay. In the Toltec shamanic tradition, the Toltec shamans, because they had clairvoyant vision, would see the energy body as a cocoon, and there would be a certain place on the cocoon that was more brighter than the other, than the rest of the cocoon, and they realized through their own direct experience that that was where the consciousness of that individual assembled itself to a singular focus. So they called it the assemblage point. Now, over time, they realized, they also saw, this is from their own seeing, not idea of it, they saw that that assemblage point on an individual would become hardened and fixed on a particular place in the cocoon. Now, as shamans, in their definition, or their experience, the true shaman had that visionary capacity as seer, but also the ability to shift or move that assemblage point from its accustomed position on a person's egg. When that occurred, other worlds or other ways of being, other ways of seeing and experiencing themselves in the world, because that new position on the cocoon positioned them in a new state of awareness, different from their own, sometimes even connecting with other worlds, would occur. And that simply, in their understanding, was the definition of a shaman. Someone who could shift the assemblage point of another to a new state of awareness and being by shifting their assemblage point. Now, they did this consciously and purposely, and that's why they were deemed a shaman, because they had that ability, just like Don Juan did for Carlos Castaneda. Now, having that understanding, which is quite straightforward and simple for me, our assemblage point can be shocked from its known position through events in our life that are catastrophic, that come in out of the blue. And many times it's through a life and death experience. That's why the shamans in the Toltec tradition call death their advisor. Because when we face our mortality face to face, we experience our mortality directly, it has an awakening power to shift our assemblage point and shift it deeper into the cocoon.
What is assemblage point?
It's the point on the cocoon where our consciousness assembles itself. And that's why they call it the assemblage point. And the original intent of a child, of a baby, is to assemble itself, assemble its reality, because its assemblage point is wandering all over the egg. And so their first task is the attention of the tonal to assemble their consciousness on a fixed position on the egg so they can make sense of the world around them. And when you go through a shamanic experience, that assemblage point is broken loose from its accustomed position and it begins to wander. That's why many who have gone through a shamanic experience or a traumatic event will feel really disoriented. Their normal or accustomed way of assembling the world around them has shifted, and it's wandering and moving to a new position of greater understanding and a more expanded view of the world around them. Now, anyone who is on a shamanic path will know, if that does occur, not to try to scramble back to the accustomed fixed position that they were familiar with before, or to allow that period of disorientation to find its natural course, because a new assemblage point will find its more expanded position and assemble the world around you by itself, if you're patient with it and don't freak out around feeling disoriented during the acclimation phase after the shocking event. Now, Jupiter and Scorpio can open portals of the shifting of our own personal assemblage point, but also the global assemblage point. Societies, cities, states, countries, the world itself has an assemblage point also. It's like functions within that known concept of itself. So a shocking event like the return of Jesus would definitely shift the assemblage point of the entire planet, or UFOs landing, and many are hoping for or looking to an assemblage point shifting event of that order to bring us all of humanity to its senses and have us finally transcend our differences and work together. So I don't imagine that being the case so much. I don't look forward to that kind of an event. I don't imagine that kind of an event, because it's, for me, it's a deeply personal journey. And so in the year to follow, particularly from now through November, with the Sun in Scorpio and Venus about to enter Scorpio, watch for opportunities to engage with the assemblage point in its fixed position, and if it begins to wander or is shocked loose or disassembled by an event or an encounter, don't freak out and try to reassemble your life to its previous position, but allow the transformation to occur and expand and deepen into a new, more conscious and purposeful position on the egg. Go ahead.
Between now and December, one of the things we're going to have is we have the Sun in Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio. Somewhere around the 17th or 18th, the Moon will be in Scorpio. Venus is going into Scorpio. Mars is going into Scorpio in December, and Jupiter is in Scorpio.
Right.
So we get all of the planets out to Saturn.
Yeah.
Within a few months. Which is,
yeah, and then
I like that. I think that's
right. So yeah, the depth of passion that we're seeking to break free from the boundaries of the known are intensified. And so rather than being concerned about the nature or turn of events beyond your control, look forward to the opportunity to rediscover the treasure inside you that's been hidden for possibly lifetimes, to arise to meet the occasion or opportunity for the changes that are occurring. If you have confidence in the innate, inherent creative power of your own star, of your own being, all adversity is an opportunity to meet that challenge with a greater level of creativity and to bring something new into being. So if you have confidence in that ability within yourself, connected to your soul star, then the changes that occur around you are only an opportunity to bring a new aspect, a greater, deeper aspect of your creativity into being, and bring it on board and exercise that newfound quality in working with others, because Scorpio is about shared or experience, deep alchemy, that we ourselves alone cannot achieve certain things. We begin to realize that only by working with another or more than just ourselves, certain opportunities can only be achieved by global personal alchemy with another. So the bonding experience, the alchemizing of with others who become your allies, who stand back to back with you at 360 degrees to meet all challenges, is another opportunity of this period. So you realize that no matter how intense it gets, we have the opportunity to create something brand new out of the ashes. This is Phoenix Fire Rising. So Glenn here probably can tell a few stories about that, but anyone else with Scorpio in their chart, when it seems like all is lost, it's like, whoa, a brand new aspect of your being. It just shows itself. You had never even suspected it was there. So look forward to that. And don't be concerned about those events that are beyond your personal control, because there are greater intelligences and forces that are monitoring that situation that are far above my pay grade, so I can just let go of that and not be too concerned about what I cannot personally influence or control. Because it's all an opportunity now for the awakening of the entire human race to the nature and consequence of civilization that is built for thousands of years and imposed upon Mother Earth, that now is on the verge of a complete and total transformation. The way that occurs, I can't imagine. I can only do my small part in being present for the opportunities that present themselves. So once you have an idea of the nature of the opportunity, then when the opportunity does present itself, you're ready, and you recognize it not as a wrong turn in the road, but as an opportunity. And just knowing that, then your whole state of being is a much more conscious and purposeful, proactive relationship to the world around you. Any other questions? Comments, Glenn?
I keep on getting this little story that I heard in 8th grade from my biology teacher. And he said, if you took the earth and shrunk it down to the size of an apple, the part of the apple that we can live on is like the dew on an apple in the morning.
Right.
And my first thought after that was, yeah, but by the afternoon the dew's gone.
Right.
You know, and ever since then, I've always had a respect for Mother Nature, you know, the
Right.
earth, that it's very tenuous, you know, that what we have to do.
Yeah. We're just the dew on the skin of the apple, right?
Yeah, right.
You have one more.
Go ahead.
Talking about forces of nature that unite people,
Mhm.
there's a lot of different sources that talk about the possibility of a solar flare that can
Mhm.
actually do a lot of damage to
Right.
civilization, let's put it this way. Sun is on a cycle as well, like any other planet, right? So
Right.
is there a possibility of something of that nature happening in the near future?
Well, we don't really know that much about the sun. We've only been able to study it for maybe 50 to 100 years.
I'm talking about from the astrological point of view,
The sun is its own being.
its own being.
Yeah, and he has his own cycles that we're just beginning to gain a whisper of understanding about. And we have noticed that the sun is going through a change. We don't really comprehend the nature of that change. But the solar flares rarely hit the Earth because they're directed in all directions from the sun. And he's a conscious living being, so if he does flare out and we are kind of driven in the darkness for a period of time, here again we have the opportunity to form right relationship to the elements around us.
That will bring people together,
Yeah, yeah, and
not meeting people.
but you know, the animal soul, the mortal side of ourselves, is tenuously connected to this earth. He or she knows that we are just tenuously connected to this earth. We could go at any time. So his or her consciousness is always searching the environment for potential sources of danger. That's her purpose. That's his purpose, to make sure that we are safe and secure in our physical beingness. But our immortal souls can't die. So it's an interesting combination. I've talked about this before many times, that this immortal soul is married to this mortal body until death do us part, offering particular unique quality opportunities for soul development that we can't realize upstairs because we're mortal beings. But the two are separate. They're actually two living beings interacting with one another. So when we ask questions about solar flares, our mortal being, our mortal soul could care less. We live forever. But our physical soul, our human animal soul, will get, whoa, you know, what's going to happen to me and my safety and security if a solar flare hits and all the electricity goes out. That's a natural concern for the human animal soul. But the human animal soul doesn't run the house any longer once you awaken to the true nature of your being. Your dog is still there, still freaking out about the sirens outside, but it's no longer running the house, right? So you don't want to discount this beautiful soul, animal soul that has become your best friend and ally for your experience of the mortal world. But you also don't want to allow her to dominate your being, dominate your spirit, and establish the fundamental emotional tone of your everyday experience.
No fear.
Right? But just like we have, you know, pets, we love them, and we do talk to them, and we ensure that they know that they're loved. But as the potential planetary elemental star being crisis intensifies, the animal souls of many humans on this planet will start freaking out, because that which was dependable and known as a structure of society that we could depend upon for our safety and security will become increasingly wobbly. And that's when we have the opportunity for our souls, our star being, our soul nature, to shine even more brightly and find ways of navigating these changes that will become really evident that there are greater intelligences working here through us and around us, opening doors that we couldn't even imagine. So I just leave that alone. I tell my dog to calm down and just stay present. Because otherwise we get into all these imaginative scenarios about what might happen. Because that's the animal soul's job, is to anticipate possible avenues of danger and protect itself against them. So you can spend, a whole lot of psychic energy trying to figure out the future, and it always turns out differently anyway. So I just learned to leave it alone. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. We'll just leave it alone.
What's that? The question behind the question. Yeah, with that Mars going into Scorpio, that's the big time initiation.
Ties it all together.
Initiation, let's put it that way. Particularly in January, when because both Mad Dog Mattis and T-Rex Tillerson have Mars and Scorpio squaring Pluto in their natal charts. So in January, Jupiter and Mars conjuncting their Mars squaring their Pluto. So I'm looking at January as a real window. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sort of to dovetail off of what she was saying, so astrologically, when you look at the global picture,
Mm-hmm.
and you think about all these prophecies from many different indigenous cultures throughout the centuries,
Mm-hmm.
Some people talk about this golden age and this profound thing happening in the solar system right now.
Yeah.
Is there an astrological indication of, when that, I think we're in it, but
Mhm.
sometimes it feels like something is preventing that from happening, or something's trying to prevent this massive sort of evolutionary shift from happening. So I just don't know if you...
You have another couple hours?
Comments on that in terms of...
That's a big question.
Are there astrological indicators that this is really when something massive is going to shift, and whether these, bizarre, whatever, Illuminati powers are going to finally, changing of the guard kind of thing?
Yeah. The astrological powers, consciousnesses, can only offer opportunities. depends on the state or development or consciousness of an individual and how they respond to that opportunity. So we could have indications of a portal, of a golden, a new world opening astrologically. But if the individuals, human beings, are not evolved to the point of being able to step into that portal and take advantage of it, it won't happen. That's why when I do a chart, I very carefully listen to the level at which the person's responding to the opportunity presented by their chart. There can't be, I can't know, because it depends on the soul development of each individual involved.
So we each
That-
individually as souls have varying abilities to meet these opportunities that the universe is providing.
Yeah, so let me answer astrologically the question. There is a profound opportunity, tremendous portal of intelligent awakening being offered from 2021 into the 2020s, when Jupiter, Saturn, conjuncting Aquarius, starting a whole new 200-year phase of societal awakening in an air sign, which is connected with our conscious awakening. That occurs on 12/21/2020, exactly 8 years after the 12/21/2012 portal, a Venus cycle. So between now and then, before the new can really emerge, the old needs to be seen for all that it has offered us as a teaching. So that we store that teaching in our soul's history so deeply that we'll never be tempted to repeat that same, or plant that same seed again. So sometimes it has to be really dramatic before we are so completely convinced that that's the wrong way to go, that we can fully then walk beyond that into whatever comes next as a new phase of our awakening. So this next 3 years is really critical to the culmination of that teaching, with Donald Trump, like Glenn said, being our petty tyrant teacher, of the consequence of that kind of beingness. Really shown to its hilt so completely that we never have any fascination or fantasy about that way of being any longer. It's done, you know. So those of us who are ready to get on with it, say, okay, what do we do? What do we do in the meantime?
Just watch all the old stuff die.
Right. The seeds for what is to follow are already being planted deep within our own being, and we are, through this period of testing, of yoga dancing, of this culmination of civilization, are being prepared, tested, and qualified to take part in the opportunity presented in the 2020s through the depth of integrity that we have achieved through the period of testing. And that will qualify us to our own selves to handle power given with greater alacrity, and realizing that we have nothing to fear in this greater power, and investing that power in creative endeavors that will then open the door to a whole new phase of creative manifestation of the human race. But that period is really coming in the 2020s, and that's why this period between now and 2021 I'm just watching the maturation in the teaching of this cycle. There's a parable in the Bible. It talks there's wheat and what are called tares growing in the field. Tares are the weeds. And the young boy, the farmer's son, says, "Let me go and tear out all the wheat tares." And the old farmer says, "No, don't tear out the tares, because you might take out some of the wheat with it. Wait until the tares mature with the wheat, because the wheat will bend over in its fruitfulness and the tares will stand straight up. And you'll be able to tell the difference and winnow out the tares from the wheat." And that's kind of what's going on right now. This thousands of years of history needs to culminate and mature so we can tell the difference between the wheat and the tares, and then harvest the wheat and eliminate the tares. And that's over the next 3 years, particularly when Jupiter enters. It'll start with Saturn going into Capricorn, full bore, middle of December onward. And then in 2019, Jupiter also enters Capricorn. We have this Jupiter-Saturn-Capricorn conjunctions, throughout 2020, which is really the culmination, the maturation, the full-blown achievement of what we're getting to see what we have achieved in this certain state of being we call civilization, and the seeds that were embedded within it from the very beginning coming into full view. But in the meantime, those who are ready for and being given information or a sense of a new phase coming are already preparing themselves during this period of time to perfect those qualities of being required to plant the new seed with integrity, so that new seed can then be planted, from which then all that follows sprouts.
I call it the Johnny Appleseeds of the Aquarian age.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so I'm sure many of you are feeling like, God, I really want to get on with it, but look at how completely asleep and dense the world is. This is impossible. There's just no way that those who voted for Trump would come over to my side. I'm not against those who voted for Trump, by the way. But so there are certain powerful awakenings that will, most likely grab all of our attention and confirm the need for a fundamental and profound change in our attitudes to one another. And the greater cosmos and its Heyoka intelligence may need to create an event that's so profound that it will require all of humanity working together to meet it. There won't be any other way around it.
Maybe that's why Trump and North Korea are doing what they're doing.
I have a feeling it might be ecological. What Trump and what these two little, I call them the toad and the pufferfish, can do is like,
Because now
It's
they're
like,
saying if North Korea does one more test, they'll blow the mountain top off
yeah,
over there.
yeah. But considering what Mother Nature can do, that's like playing with matches. Even though it could be a horrifying outcome for a certain sector of humanity, we still have a way of isolating the pain of others and just getting on with our lives. But there's a, if the ecological disasters reach global proportion, that'll affect everyone. And it'll be beyond our individual nationalities, races, creeds, stations in life. It's like we're all in this together now. So there's no way denying that. And that could, and in fact would, bring all of humanity together.
Right.
As a global event. And you see that, right now in certain areas, isolated areas, where the whole Puerto Rico comes together for a period of time. But if, in fact, global events of an elemental nature begin to intensify as a pattern that's so obvious that it can't be ignored any longer, then that will be a unifying catalyst for humanity to come together. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just watching it as a distinct possibility. Go ahead.
There was a lot of talk prior to the date 12/21/12 that was going to be a big shifting date, and profound things were going to happen. It seems like that date has now been replaced with the new 12/21/21 date. Any chances that date will come and go with?
It's just the beginning. It's just the beginning of an opportunity for the next 200 years.
Just like 12.
So there's no event associated with it. But it's a whole phase that gradually begins to open up to humanity as an opportunity offered by these great beings. Now whether we step into it or not, can't be known.
That was like the same with the 12/21/12 date. It's just an opportunity date.
That was the ending of a cycle.
It's a cycle.
And when a cycle ends, it begins a new cycle. It doesn't mean that everything changes on that day. It's just the gradual appearance of a new phase of consciousness. It could take 100 years to fully come into view. So there's no, and like I said earlier in the talk about the human animal soul trapped on this crystallized point on the egg, it's so desperate to break free because it's miserable in that trapped position. It's hoping for something apocalyptic to happen to blow themselves free of this miserable life they're living. But I kind of changed my attitude about that. I don't particularly want or need an apocalyptic event in order to get the message any longer. Even though if that occurred, well, I said, okay, let's ride this dragon.
If you were going to look at the astrology alignment of when...
But did I answer your question about the astrology?
Oh, yeah.
That was a long time ago, I know.
But I don't know if historians know the exact date of the Great Flood, but what would you see in the global chart if you saw a massive global catastrophic thing happening? Like what might you see aligned or conjunct or squared or... I'm just curious. And again, it kind of goes back to what she was asking, but what might you see in a chart of global catastrophic destruction?
I'm not sure the outer planets have that much to do with it.
Okay.
I think it's more the Earth herself having her own cycles, being a living being, and she going through a certain transformation process herself. The outer planets can, have some kind of influence on intensifying or triggering what's been going on with her, but it's fundamentally inherent to the Earth herself and the changes she goes through. The Earth right now is in a much more peaceful place than, for billions of years of her history, this was rocking and rolling down here. Earthquakes and floods and, massive storms.
Mexico could have 100 a day.
Yeah, we are in a very quiet period, 12,000-year interglacial period that's coming to an end. This is a natural cycle of Mother Earth. We humans can have some impact on possibly accelerating the change, but this is natural to her. This is part of her natural process. We as humans get a little nervous about the elementals when they start waking up and doing their thing.
And
So-
connect with them, work with them.
There are some astrologers who kind of specialize in is there a name for them? Mundane astrologers? That's more political and social, but that look at geological events.
Geodetic stuff.
Yeah. But I don't really tie that to the outer planets or what they're doing. Like I said, the sun has his own beingness, and he goes through his own cycles. The planets revolving around him have very little to do with it. The Earth herself has her own living and beingness and cycle. So that's kind of as far as I can understand that.
May I?
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at it from almost a larger picture. Our whole solar system is moving through a cycle around our universe, or galaxy. And there was a bunch of Russian scientists a while back said that in the late 80s we moved into an area of the galaxy that has a lot more quote space junk.
Right.
And so people talk about the idea that the Earth has global warming. It's not global warming, it's system warming. If you look at what's happening to all of the planets, the ice caps on Mars are melting, Uranus is growing in brightness, and there's all these things that are happening with all of the planets, including the sun, by the way, that are just kind of stirring the pot a little bit. So that would be more of an indicator of larger cycle kind of things.
Right.
We're supposedly also going through some sort of particle belt.
Photon belt. Yeah.
Yeah, the same
Same
concept.
idea, same
So
idea.
are all the planets ascending? Are going through their cycle change?
The whole
Yeah,
The
they're all
whole year?
shifting. They're all shifting in
Yeah.
heat or luminosity.
Yeah.
It's been happening for a few decades now.
Right.
Oh,
I don't hear 12,000 years cycles or something like that.
Some of these are like 168,000 years, and
Cycles.
12
Yeah.
million year cycles when you're talking about the movement of the solar system around the universe. I mean, they're
Around the galaxy.
huge cycles.
Yeah, it's like a 25 million year
Yeah, we're on the outside of the
orbit
galaxy.
around the galactic center,
Sometime
you know.
To get around.
So they're too big for anybody to comprehend
Yeah.
what would happen. You know? It's-
Yeah, we're just, you know, maybe 100 years into, a few hundred years into really beginning to understand the larger implication of the matrix we're embedded in here.
Oh, it's the 24,000 year cycle. Or something
it's
that's
26.
significant
That's
of
one of them, yeah.
those.
That's just the, the precessional cycle of the equinoxes. Mhm. Anyone else? Any last thing you'd like to add, Glenn, before I close?
12, 21, 12, you know,
Mm-hmm.
for decades I've been saying it's not one day, it's like a 40-year window.
Right.
You know, cycles that are that big don't just stop; they start to bleed from one into the other.
Yeah.
And
I knew that, but there was a lot of people that were really
yeah,
misinterpreted that.
Everything's
Yeah.
very gradual.
the important thing is what's happening right now is we have to choose what we want to extend into the Aquarian age or what we want to have die on the vine.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're in a few generations now here that we're going to set the tone for the next 2,000 years for what can happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything, history.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, yeah, and going into the 2020s, like he's talking about too. There's,
We're gonna be careful, right?
well, no, it's what are you going to get behind, and what do you want to, you know, what has to go.
Back to integrity, right? Back to
Yes.
integrity.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the real golden age dawns within each of us. When that solar star inside of you ignites, and you are touched by eternity, you experience your own immortality. You've entered the golden age. And to me, that's the only true golden age that can dawn. Each individual awakening to the star, the golden star within themselves, and igniting that star from the heart, in the center of the heart, the lotus, the nectar of the heart. And then the discipline involved in perfecting that heart fire as an awakening in conscious purpose, as an awakened in conscious purpose. That's when the golden age dawns. Not by some magic trigger from the other planets in our solar system. They can only offer opportunities. So that's why I don't put a whole lot of credence in event horizons any longer. You know, I remember I'm a child of the 60s, so I remember all kinds of prophecies that came and went.
Future shock.
Until I finally realized, whoa, you mean this is like an individual journey that cannot be achieved by an outer event? Really? Okay. So it really does come down to the awakening of each individual on this planet to the golden opportunity to expand and connect with the heart chakra, nature of their being, and enter their own personal golden age. And then once you've done that, it doesn't quite matter what the rest of the world does. You're already there, and each opportunity, you have then the opportunity to be a catalyst for others to awaken to the golden age hidden within them. And the more of us that do that, wow, we're in the golden age. It just snuck up behind us through the back door. We didn't need a global event. There wasn't any Christ that returned. Viracocha didn't show up in his chariot. We just arrived. And that's the beauty of the whole process that's underway now. It's like we're closer than we think.
So is that where you could say the idea in quantum physics that we create our reality and astrology meet is in that golden age where we're all on the same kind of evolutionary mindset? 'Cause I don't know a lot about astrology.
Right. Neither do I. I just look at them all as I go. It's a constant exploration, you know.
Yeah.
And really the heart of it, a Starwalker, I was given this medicine named Starwalker because we have a living relationship to these beings we call planets who are alive. So they just like Mother Earth has an influence on our consciousness because she's a living being. Jupiter is also a living being. So when I dive into a chart, Jupiter starts talking to me. Glenn can attest to this because he's alive. He's a living being. He has a quality of consciousness all his own. So rather than predicting events, which is impossible, because the older the soul, the more creatively you would engage with the opportunity. It can't be predicted. The more you recognize the opportunity presented by the portal that's open. And that's why the outcome cannot be predicted. We can't possibly know how each individual and humanity at large is going to decide to take advantage of the opportunity presented by these portals. That can only be known in the present moment. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.